taking us into map 3 in the series, currently tied 1-1, Simplicity to OpTic. And remember, Simplicity has to take this series 3-1 if they want to head to playoffs.
And to that very same note, if OpTic just gets one of the 2 next maps, they will limp their way into playoffs. It definitely would not be a resounding first or second, the hopes and dreams that they had coming in, but they would be alive.
Yeah, again, it's still barring, you know, a miracle 4-0 coming out from bye week in their last match of the regular season. Still, OpTic Academy, they hold their fate in their own hands. On the defense, Simplicity, they're going to go run dive. It's going to be Ginger Pop, though, swapping over on to the Ana for them.
And this is about as standard gets here, where we've been seeing people run Ana on maps where the Ana can be far back and reasonably well protected. OpTic going to be running Genji to begin with, but I guarantee you, as soon as they get through point A, it's going to be Killer going to that 7-6.
Now, as they get out of the gates, though, it's a full dive coming up from OpTic Academy. They have aid, of course, on the Lucio. That speed boost could be crucial. We'll see if OpTic Academy can single out either Ginger Pup or Wonjae Lee. Neither of them have the mobility.
And OpTic, they're not really known for taking their time here, so I don't expect them to wait too long. Yeah, they're just going to go straight in. They seize the opportunity. They're going straight in on the supports. Simplicity trying to defend, but DPS gives up his life for it early on. And yet, even as they huddle here into the corner, Redzy's doing work on the backside. Zom's able to keep stuff reasonably healthy. The problem for Simplicity is that even if they win, they're wounded, and respawns are going to be coming back in.
And these are not supports that have mobility. They can't just jump over easily to get back here. And so there is an opportunity for OpTic because they are running that Lucio to get back here full force. And though, of course, they're just going straight at the gut. Gray starts it off. Zoms is already gone.
Yeah, Zoms got demeched in the last fight. That's why he's already gone. He was trying to get a mech in the middle of it. So you're already down Zoms. You have people running back in with poor position. You've given up 2 ticks. What do you do right now if you're Simplicity to still fight this out? It's dangerous because if DPS dies like he just did there, if you're not able to get these pickups, you're loading up OpTic with ultimates. Asuman Su uses the blade for nothing. Simplicity took a gamble, and it just came up snake eyes.
Oh boy. Losing that blade could be crucial. We have OpTic already pressuring onto point A. Ginger Pop has to be careful. He's being covered by Zoms as he's making his retreat. Sharp is still going to go in, though.
Yeah, he's going in because OpTic knows they have an opportunity here. They're about to have Transcendence. Oh, no! Keller dives too deep. Wanja takes him out in the nick of time. And, oh, he gets Sharp as well! Oh, my word! Wanja being the rock for Simplicity, stopping OpTic in their tracks.
Yeah, he just hits him with that flying crane kick there, gets rid of him. And so that's going to allow Simplicity to stabilize. And OpTic Academy, they didn't use much other than, of course, Gray's Transcendence along with that Pulse Bomb. So Simplicity, they are stabilizing. They are going to have they are going to be able to hold here for longer if they just use their ultimates correctly coming into this. Now, Keller, he will have his blade, but we'll see if he can get into the backline. Wonjae Lee will have that Transcendence. Now, OpTic Academy, can they try to bait that out earlier, though?
Well, they're going to have to take this slower than they took the last attack. Certainly, you can't have Keller diving in as deep as he did. He didn't get picked off in a different fight, but Smurf going in deep. Get Primal Rage. Oh, gets slapped! But able to Primal Rage in time before that turns worse. The problem... Oh, look at that! The self-destruct got 2 in the back. OpTic, even down Gray, can make this work. Bull keeps him in the fight. Keller bringing out the light blade. Uses it for anti-tank duty. Winston down, slices through D.Va. OpTic with options here. They might be down a healer, but everyone else is still up. They've gotten 1 tick, they're getting more. This is what you want as an attack on Hanamura. And interesting enough, Keller's still staying on the Genji.
Keller is still on the Genji, and he is making it work right now. Redzy finally answers back with 1 elimination onto aid, but that's not going to be enough. DPS even coming in with that stall. Second tick goes on over for OpTic Academy. Zoms will fall shortly. Will anyone be able to make it onto the point? We have Ginger Pop on the Lucio, but he's instantly focused on down. They're trying their best Simplicity here on the defense to keep this alive, but the respawn staggers is just too strong.
And OpTic just needs a tiny little bit more. They're gonna get it. 4.5 minutes left on the clock. And to the sort of point about Keller, what he was going to play is that he was going to stand Genji for 1 Dragon Blade and then likely swap, but even with the overdive, right, the overextension where Wanja just punishes OpTic worse than you could ever hope to be punished by a Zenyatta, he didn't use the blade in that instance at the very least. Had it for the next fight, and was able to find the right moment for it. It started out as an anti-tank blade and then escalated into more. And OpTic puts down a very respectable time here against Simplicity, where, let us remind everyone just tuning in, this is a must-win situation for Simplicity. If they don't win Hanamura, they're not going to the playoffs.
And a lot of what you had set up did start off here on point A, even though the first push coming out from OpTic got squashed by Simplicity. Because Simplicity did lose a few members, OpTic Academy were able to come back. They rushed on in, aid with that speed boost on the Lucio, got that retake, and instantly took it. They had about 6 minutes to work with going on to point B. So even though they lost that first fight on point B, they still had plenty of time to decide whether or not they want to go with that 76. And you know what? To their credit, Keller made it work. He had a great blade. Even though it went into tanks, he still had the cleanup there. And there was actually a miracle just dash where I think he was trying to get Zombs as he was getting demech'd. But in that time, he had actually ran into Sominsu, taking him out mid-dash also.
Definitely worked out for OpTic. And one thing to note here, just so people are wondering about the playoffs structure, technically, if Simplicity were to win this 3-1, OpTic would not be knocked out. But for all intents and purposes, they would, because they would then need bye week to just stomp NRG later in the day, which, given that bye week is not taking a map, is super unlikely to happen. So this effectively is a knockout match for both teams.
And with OpTic Academy, 4 minutes and 36 seconds in the time bank, puts them in a very comfortable spot here. Simplicity now, they're going to go for the dive themselves. It's just mirrored compositions. OpTic Academy doing what Simplicity did on their defense. We'll see Simplicity can recreate the same success they had on their first push, where they got rid of both the Zenyatta and the Ana. And
Simplicity, much like OpTic, they don't wait too much time to go in, although right now you see DPS is really split off from the rest of the team. This is where he's been getting focused down heavily, and you see that coming in. The Discord Orb marks him down early. He has to back out. And yet Simplicity, they're still good for the wear here right now. They still have everyone up and alive. They were able to reset without losing a person, which means they get this next attack right away. They get another chance for initiation here. OpTic getting pushed back. Simplicity's still in a very, very good shape here, but they don't want to pursue this. They're just going to wait a little bit longer.
You saw the patience and the positioning coming out from OpTic Academy's defense. Gray along with Aid were just so far back that Redzy had to use all 3 of his blinks just to get back there. Forced to instantly recall. Sharp already taking out Minsu.
Minsu out of the fight really, and Sharp not done yet. Deals with the initial vanguard of Winston Genji. Redzy trying to bring it back on the other end. And sure, doing work at the moment, but down to 15 HP. All is able to finish that off. And for now, OpTic not super threatened.
They're actually forcing back the members of Simplicity. Almost got some more staggered kills. The final one to go down was going to be Zom, so already 2 minutes and 30 seconds, excuse me, 1 minute and 30 seconds burned off the clock of Simplicity. Now it's coming down to Sominsu. He's got his blade, but it's going to be in the face of a lot of adversity. Aid, he has his Transcendence. It's going to be Gray with the Nano Blade on the opposite end.
Yeah, and Keller can do quite a bit with this Nano Blade, especially if he times it in between ultimates. Now, Wanja's under pressure, doesn't transcend in time! The barrier doesn't hit him just in time. Meanwhile, Sominsu pulls out a blade of his own, got Gray, but doesn't have much else to work with in the moment. The pickoff on Wonjae Lee there, so important.
So now coming into this next fight, yeah, because they picked off Wonjae Lee, this is not a really in-sync fight that you want to have as Simplicity as a dive. You don't have a blade behind it. Redzy might have, of course, his pulse bomb, but you need more firepower. You need more consistent firepower behind this trance. Keller, he's held onto his blade, so maybe they just counter that. No, instantly the dive comes on out. Wonjae Lee is going to use that Transcendence.
And they tried to focus down Smurf there. Smurf faded it to a degree, had Primal Rage ready. Keller takes advantage of the chaos, blade out, and gets crunched by Zombs. It's not quite as good as OpTic would have liked here, but they are working on the outskirts. We have Sharp versus Redzy, and that was not a fair fight at all. Aid coming in and finishing Sharp's plate.
We're seeing the difference in execution between OpTic and Simplicity here on the point A attack. OpTic, during their point A attack, they just went ahead and used Aid's speed boost to get onto the right-hand side. Right now, Simplicity, they're trying to use up all of their gap closers to get onto Gray and Aid. So all they have to do is just step back, and then the rest of the team just counter dive. This is such a perfect trap coming out from OpTic.
OpTic waiting for the initiation. They're just going to focus on the D-Mech, and they get it. Zom's out of the fight, and now you're going to be seeing Smurf come in even more aggressively from the top, but he backs out. He doesn't let himself get focused out. full, eats a little bit of damage as well, and just the damage sharing between the tanks here, very good for OpTic. Neither getting put into the danger zone, and now Su out in no man's land. He can't let himself get staggered with 30 seconds left. This could be horrific for Simplicity.
Retzi was able to take out Gray, but they lose Zom's mech in turn. Now, Sharp is on the hunt for Retzi as the Primal Rage is going to be used by DPS. He's trying to get into the back line. Keller's already taken out too. Oh no, this is not when you want to be losing people, but Mitsu comes back with the blade. He needs to get it reset. He needs to get on top of someone.
It's 10 seconds left. Simplicity season on the line. They must get into this point. There are no more chances. Retzi's down. Sumansu's out. You don't have any more DPS up, but we are in overtime. Zoms, one of the last remaining. Buying time here for Simplicity. They're trying to keep the season alive, but 1J Lee, the support's getting just smushed by Smurf in the back, sending one flying after the other. And Simplicity, it's been a good fight. It's been a good ride, but overtime ticking down right now as OpTic clears them out one by one. And it's going to be OpTic Academy making the playoffs and sending Simplicity home.
One full hole deserves another. So after that Numbani performance, OpTic Academy come back with a vengeance.
Yeah, we saw some shades of Ilios there with kind of the way that we saw Simplicity fall off in their approach.
Yeah, and it was interesting the way things ended up breaking down there, where it was just much better tank pressure coming out from OpTic. And in the end, for people wondering, like, wait, what do you mean the series isn't over? Just based on map score tiebreakers, OpTic now is guaranteed to get into playoffs, even if Simplicity wins the series.
Yep. And now let's talk a little bit. You had mentioned briefly the difference in approach that OpTic and Simplicity had to that first point. Let's go into that a little bit more. Okay,
so point A, Hanamura, we saw that during the first push coming out from OpTic Academy, they knew that more than likely, of course, the Ana and the Zenyatta are going to be sitting off on the left-hand side all the way in the back. So what they did is they used their speed boost to just get in there, and then they used the rest of their gap closers on their individual heroes to dive, to finish off that dive. What Simplicity were doing, though, on their dives, we saw Retzi using all three of his blinks just to try and get back there. He's already at half HP. He has to use his recall, and by then, he can't get back into that fight. You need to use the Lucio speed boost to close the gap first, and then execute on your dive.
And here you really see kind of the difference in play levels between Sharp and Retzi, and Sharp was really just making short work of him this entire series.
I just think it went back and forth between the two of them overall, and this was, my goodness. Smurf, calm down, please. Good God,
He
man.
says no.
When you want to send a team packing, just send them flying. But I do think that you saw some of the sort of difference, or variation, I should say, between Tracers that you get over the course of a series where both are very good. It's uncommon for one Tracer to have a huge game over the other. Both had their moments, but unfortunately for Simplicity, Retzi needed to be on pretty much the entire time, and Sharp took him to task here in Hanamura.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and head into our fourth map of the series. Now, not necessarily the last map of the series, depending on how Simplicity plays, but they are taking us to Dorado.
This is an interesting pick coming out from Simplicity. Of course, it is, again, one of those Genji playgrounds. We could see Widowmaker coming out, so will we see Retzi facing off against Keller like we did on Ilios Runes? More than likely.
Now, for those who are wondering, well, gee, why are we playing out this final map? What does any of this matter? What matters here now is playoff seeding between NRG and OpTic, because what could happen here is a situation where if OpTic is able to take this next map, that could be the difference between them getting 3rd seed and 4th seed, which can have a pretty radical difference in matchup. It's the difference between facing Toronto Esports or not facing Toronto Esports.
Yeah, and as we've seen, Toronto is just on fire.
Yeah, I mean, you know, coming from the north there, I know winter is ending, but yeah, they are definitely heating up now. Toronto Esports, we didn't know how they would actually rack up in Group A, because Group A was a little bit more difficult to try and call. We thought we had, like, Group B down pat, but even Group B is giving us surprises now, so who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay, so heading into Dorado, you already talked we're going to see some Genji play. What else do you guys expect to see from these teams?
Well, I think Genji will be a mainstay. I do think we're going to be seeing Widow on both ends. Certainly, I think Retzi will give it a shot. And look, here's where, if you're going to try anything crazy coming from Simplicity, now's the time to try it, right? You actually have nothing to lose at this point. And Simplicity as a team, they've been strong enough that they're also not a team that I think has to worry too much looking to next season Contenders trial. So they will likely be back. So why not have some fun with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen Retzi on Widowmaker a few times now throughout this entire season, but it's been, it was weak at the beginning and he got much stronger as time has gone on. Do you expect to see a strong Widowmaker showing from him?
I mean, it wasn't bad at all when they were actually on Ilios. It was just that the Sombra pressure coming out from Gray for OpTic Academy made it completely different, the battlefield. Usually, you know, those control maps, they're split down in half, they're equal, right? But once that mega health pack control gets taken away, all of a sudden your zone it starts encroaching upon like your opponents. And so that Widowmaker who has that Sombra has a lot more space to work with because her tanks have a lot more space to work with.
And it's not only just that, it's also the threat to the other Widowmaker, where if you're in a Widow v Widow battle, the other Widow has to worry about, oh my god, is there actually a Sombra behind me? Well, that's a problem.
Well, they'll find out, won't they? We're going to head into map now. We are going to Dorado. We're going to see now if Simplicity can take this to 5 maps, or is OpTic Academy going to take it 3-1 and end the series here?
So pop quiz here, Jamerson. When was the last time that the area of Dorado had a power outage?
Never.
Absolutely right. Lumerico Corporation is the most reliable power company in the world. Absolutely fantastic. Keep giving clean, eco-friendly power to the people of Dorado.
Do they even cover Texas, ZP?
I don't want to talk about this. You know what?
You're just setting yourself up for the future. You want the possibility of moving down to Mexico and having free utilities.
Wherever Lumerico is, I will go, so long as they continue giving me absurdly large paychecks. But Jamerson, we're in play here, and OpTic Academy starting out on the defense, and they're going to be running this defensive Widow. Keller v Retzi, up to task once more.
Yeah, but it's Keller that starts it all off. So Min-Soo on your freshman voyage. Already getting taken out here. DPS falls himself. So Simplicity, they have to be careful. Luckily, of course, the payload is right outside their spawn. They've got these walls they can work with to try and push it to this corner, but they're not going to push it any much further.
And OpTic just buys himself a whole lot of time here. Keller gets a chance to go for again, gets the headshot on the DPS once more. Think about how this affects the rest of the push. DPS has to back out. OpTic gets to keep control of the top, and so as Keller doesn't get picked off, OpTic is buying themselves a lot of space with their Widow play here so far.
Yeah, they're able to just apply pressure from the high ground here. You saw Sharp along with their Winston and their Diva just taking that position, poking away at them, poking at DPS, who's able to make it out. He's going to get healed back up. That allows Gingerpop to have a really early Valkyrie. But on the opposite end, OpTic Academy, Aid, he's got his Nano Boost. Look for it to go on to Smurf. Yeah,
and because you're not running a Genji, the Nano Boost on the Smurf makes the most sense. Suman2, he doesn't want you the way, takes down 2 immediately. Keller going, oh god, hook, hook, hook. Well, he's able to hook himself away, but he's very far away from the point or doing anything helpful for the defense. Simplicity starts moving into the corner.
We do have the Primal Rage in the back. It's going to come out from Smurf as he's trying to apply pressure onto Retzi. Retzi getting pocketed, but it's not enough. Self-destruct will be used by Zombs just to get back into his mech. And Keller on this Widowmaker, even though he got pressured earlier, he has found his stoop once again with this Widowmaker. Sharp cleans up DPS, and that's going to force Simplicity to reset.
Well, let's just be clear. Smurf and Sharp just canceled Christmas right there. Simplicity got a great move into the back. They got both supports, and Smurf bought so much time with Sharp on distraction that Simplicity doesn't have much to show for it.
Yeah, what they do have is 2 minutes left, and the payload has barely made its way beyond this checkpoint, or excuse me, choke point. Retzi has fallen now to Keller, and it looks like Keller is starting to get in his groove. They will be able to get the res back into it, but now that means the resurrection is off the field for Simplicity for another 25 seconds.
OpTic just needed a little bit more. Minute 40 left. Simplicity trying to get something going. And you see the leap in from DPS. Has to Primal Rage early because of the focus fire, and still under fire. Wanja has to connect with DPS right now, and will. Brings him back up to full HP. Meanwhile, Sharp looking for the spicy D-Mech on the other side. Forces Zombs out of the fight. Keller is taken down. Gingerpop supporting Retzi in more ways than one. And now, Simplicity starting to turn this a bit more in their favor.
They still have to deal with Smurf and Sharp. Gingerpop is going to be able to get the res onto Min-Soo, but it's now Retzi who's got all the space in the world to work with. Takes out Sharp, then Vol, and now they're going to move forward with that payload. OpTic Academy, they could try and go in for a retake, and Min-Soo goes too far, right into Smurf, gets taken out.
Smurf coming back into the fight, sending Retzi on a ride. Although Retzi says, you don't have enough, and Smurf knew it. He's not able to get away. Retzi finishes him off, and it's more of a brawl here back in the point. Simplicity, they've been winning this for a while, but they haven't been able to get rid of both Smurf and Sharp at the same time. The defensive heroes right now for OpTic, because look, okay, you just got rid of Sharp. Aid's buying time now, and Smurf's about to be back in. He just Goomba stomps himself back onto the point, and OpTic is buying so much time right now in a fight that was over so long ago.
Yeah, and this is how we saw Dorado play out often. Better part of the early part of last year in 2017, where teams were running, of course, a lot of like triple DPS, really dive heavy, dive oriented, where they didn't have to win the fight, they just had to win the time battle. And so we saw Simplicity get almost taken all the way over to overtime now. So as we move into second, they've got 2 minutes and 30 seconds, but a whole large bank of ultimates to work with.
Simplicity, it's very difficult for a team to get through second. When you have this many ultimates available, well, it's a pretty good start. And now they're gonna open things up. Already Valkyrie into Dragon Blade, Su, no chill whatsoever. And yet, he didn't have the greatest opportunity to use it. Meanwhile, Retzi dies at the back, and Simplicity saw an opportunity that frankly was not there.
Yeah, this keeps happening to 1J Lee because the dive is used by Simplicity. Ginger Pop goes in with Su. That leaves 1J Lee out in the cold, and wow, he went for the Transcendence. Oh no, it's a huge blunder coming out from Simplicity.
And the problem for Simplicity is they only have 1:45 left, Jamerson, and they're not even through the first bend. The second bend is the hard mode in Dorado.
Yeah, we see a lot of teams actually run into this issue where they try to pocket who they believe is going to carry them. Su, his blade, it just fizzled. And they even, of course, used Ginger Pop into that dive. And so many resources being committed onto him, but they don't win out that fight. OpTic Academy have more than stabilized here. Sharp has another pulse bomb, and he has been connecting with these.
1:20 left for Simplicity. You gotta watch out for Sharp. Smurf gets 1J Lee early on using the Primal Rage. DPS is doing the same on the other end. We are going ape up here in Dorado right now. And yet, Su gonna get the D-Mech, Blade at the ready. Back out just a bit, and his fall gets two coming off the self-destruct, and a little bit of follow-through off the Bunny Blaster. That's enough for OpTic to keep Simplicity back as they enter into their final minutes.
They do pick up some staggered kills, so now they will be able to get on to the points if they so want to. Su jumps up top, but instead, he's going to make progress with the payload now. We got the Blade once again, but he has not been able to find a proper opening. Every single time OpTic had the disengage options to try and deal with him. He's looking for that Blade once again.
Well, Su, if you're gonna make a huge moment for yourself here, now would be the time, but Keller falls early on, and that's even better for Simplicity in the moment. Now you have the 6-on-5 opportunity, get Smurf, and who's gonna stop the Blade here? Not too much in all likelihood. Goes for Gray. Gray is not a hero this time, and he's gonna end up getting Aid as well. Nope, has to put out the way of the Blade, and oh no, Aid has to say it as he takes out Su, and Su at the very end, the Blade just put down at the wrong time.
They have 4 people on the payload right now, but remember, the respawn distance will favor OpTic Academy. It's an overtime as Simplicity need to keep bodies on the point, but they also need to buy time for the rest of the members to come in. That's why they've only got the one person here slowly pushing forward. That payload Transcendence will be used, but Keller and Sharp have taken out Retzi and Ginger Pop.
Early openings for OpTic, and now they double down. They use the barrier to put Simplicity on the brink. They are down to Diva as this fray unfolds. Sharp just looking for DPS right now. And oh no, Simplicity cannot stand the point. Zombs just a little bit off. And this ends, like so many Dorado games, right before point B.
Yeah, almost every Contenders Dorado's game so far, other than maybe 2 here in North America, has only made it into the 3rd point. So now OpTic Academy, they have a huge win condition here. They get the 3rd map up against Simplicity. They just need to take it just barely before 2nd to walk away the victors.
And now to be clear about the implications of this map, for people who are wondering, why are you still playing this? Well, allow me to enlighten you. NRG, the best map score they can have at the very end of their series, if they 4-0 bye week, which is frankly the most likely scenario, they would have 12 map wins. OpTic so far in the series has 12 wins. So for NRG to not face Toronto Esports in the first round of the playoffs, they need Simplicity to take this map away from OpTic, where even though that would not put Simplicity in the playoffs, it would set up a scenario where OpTic would end up going against Toronto early and would save NRG that difficult matchup. So in terms of what to play for here, Simplicity might not have much to play for, but NRG fans should be giving Simplicity their energy right about now. No pun intended.
Well, maybe Lumerico should be giving you their energy because you've been doing some good shelling so far, ZP.
Oh, they don't give me energy. They just give me money.
Okay. Well, that's even better because
Yes.
you can convert that into energy or into food, anything you like, honestly.
I can convert to all sorts of things, and Smurf,
Yeah.
come on, man. Come on. Just
It's gonna
get
be-
down.
There we go. Shimmies on out. He shimmies on out.
We just replaced
Winston's got the moves.
Unbelievable. Anyways, OpTic going to be starting their attack here, and no, Gray, I don't believe you're going to be in the Hanzo, but you might scout and then swap off. Not even that.
Killer already did spot out a few members on high ground here. Widow versus Widow once again up against Retzi as Keller goes in for the grapple hook. Ooh!
Almost.
Right, I think that might have been a deflect coming out from him.
It was. That
Yeah.
almost went right back at Keller. That would have been unfortunate to say the least, but an incredible play from So Min Soo. OpTic, for now, not overcommitting too much. Smurf looking for a little bit of pressure. Keller looking to see if there's just anything in his sights. Meanwhile, the payload moving up all the way. Not a bad start here from OpTic, but Simplicity just going to be taking their stance at the courtyard.
Yeah, during OpTic's defense, though, they were trying to play the clock. You saw them play the high ground, play the roofs there. Here we go, Zoms tries to go aggressive onto Keller, but it might get punished himself. Now, it's Vol on the opposite end who goes too far, gets demeched by Wonjae Lee.
Well, Vol's going to get demeched early on. Keller's still with room to work with. Zoms gets demeched as well, so both divas out of the fray, but So Min Soo a little bit too deep. Smurf takes him down, and OpTic continues to have a strong presence in the payload. Now, they're not able to finish their plate. So Min Soo going to be getting back up into the fray. Still a 6-on-6. Pulse bomb out from Sharp, and oh, DPS just bouncing on out of there, takes 0 damage from that pulse bomb. And Simplicity, they're playing the long game here, but they're playing it pretty well. No one has been picked off, and now they can go back the other way at the Valkyrie.
Valkyrie has been used by Gingerpop. Now they are going for the counter dive as OpTic try to go aggressive, but that means Keller has no one really in his sightlines. He's trying to take this battle up against Retzi, but it's the ground wars that we really do have to look out for. The Transcendence has gone anticipated, leaving Wonjae Lee vulnerable along with Gingerpop, so both supports will fall now, and OpTic Academy are just left cleaning up the members of Simplicity.
OpTic not falling here just yet, able to keep on the pressure. Whoa, So Min Soo super far deep, but meanwhile Taylor goes the other way. You got the kill onto your hated enemy, but at what cost?
OpTic Academy, 4 minutes and 30 seconds. All they need to do is just push it right there to the yellow box of victory just before second, and they'll walk away with a 3-1 victory, putting them in a great position. Move forward in the playoffs, get that 3rd seed. Now Sharp, it's been this man who's come up for them time and again. He's got the pulse bomb now. He's finding position, trying to get onto the high ground, but here's the counter dive coming out from Simplicity.
Simplicity, as they were going in, Gingerpop got picked off immediately. This means now OpTic has more room to work with. They don't have to worry about things getting healed up. Retzi was going for the flanking Widow play here to try and even things up, but ends up with nothing, as the fight had already gone the other way. Zoms ends up feeding, and now Keller goes deep, gets Retzi in the moment, and kill after kill is going the way of the OpTic, and they don't have much further to go.
These Widow battles have been going back and forth, but mostly in the favor of Keller now. They got onto the offensive. Sharp nearly gets dropped there, but he has his recall to stay safe. They're keeping Simplicity contained right now, forcing them to just come out from this singular angle.
They only need a little bit more. Sharp setting up the ambush, looking for anything here, and he's going for the supports. To the back, pulse bomb out, and it's actually his partner, Smurf, coming in, disrupting Gingerpop. Might have knocked him out of the bomb, but still got the kill anyways. Gingerpop focused down in the moment. OpTic seeing a little bit more. Zoms out of the fight, but it's So Min Soo and Retzi turning it back the other way, the blade striking deep.
Oh, So Min Soo needs to come up clutch finally with that blade. He's getting focused down by Vold, but OpTic Academy, they have a turn tail. This is a good time to do it. Aid will get picked off, but again, OpTic Academy, they still have 2 minutes and 50 seconds to just complete this out. You saw there, it was 1.5 meters away. Simplicity, this is not going to be easy hold for them. That's going to help. Resi starting it off, taking out Sharp.
It's not going to be an easy hold, but it's also Dorado second. This is super doable for Simplicity, where they can just stab OpTic in the back as they go into the grave. OpTic yet to be wounded here as NRG fans hope that Simplicity is successful.
Now, Wonjae Lee, he does have the Transcendence. What we've seen, OpTic has been able to make him panic, have been able to force it out early, so he has to stay a bit further back. Red Sea gets tagged down by the right click coming out from the opposing Zenyatta. Gray will be able to build up that trance for his team now. Sharp tries to get on top of Wonjae Lee, forces out that trance.
They force out the Transcendence, but they're not able to get away clean. Smurf getting killed immediately, which makes that a much better trade for Simplicity. Transcendence or no, it's going to be sending OpTic back once more. Minute 48 left to go.
Again, though, OpTic have been so good about pressuring Wonjae Lee. He has not felt comfortable on that Zenyatta for one moment at all. So now with that trance gone, opens up a huge window for OpTic. They're going to go ahead and use the infrasight coming out from Keller. Sharp, he's on the lurk with that Tracer, so he's going to be able to tell where they're coming from.
Sharp coming in on the outskirts and just focused on tanks, and Keller finishes what he started. Got a huge headshot, aided by a Discord Orb. Now OpTic's diving on in. They seize the opportunity. Both tanks are gone. Sharp just working the outskirts. A bomb still loaded in his arsenal as OpTic cleanly takes down Simplicity and secure themselves the number 3rd seed here in North America Contenders.
And that is a bit of an uh-oh for NRG.
Yeah.
So talk about the seed prospects now. You said that this is a guaranteed 3rd spot. NRG is going to have to be facing off with.
Well, if NRG even, if they get a 4-0, that still puts them in the 4th seed position. So there's no way at all.
It's not even any way for them to...
No.
OpTic to secure their 3rd place spot now.
All right, and then who is first on for our other... It's Toronto, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're going to be facing Toronto. That's scary.
So NRG is going to be singing "Oh Canada" as they have to go up and face a surging Toronto esports team. Very much the scariest team in Group A. So NRG has their work cut out for them. And on the same note, NRG has also been exceeding expectations pretty much the entire tournament here so far. So still not necessarily a guaranteed win for Toronto.
Yeah, now we saw exactly what you guys expected, which was a lot of Widow v Widow on this. Here we have Retzi. Let's just kind of talk about the pressure that each of them was under and what they could apply to these team fights.
Well, neither of the Widows were really being particularly targeted down. Up until, of course, Winston had like a Primal Rage. So we would see Smurf on OpTic Academy actually able to just lay on the pressure once he had that Primal Rage to get onto that, get onto the Widowmaker. And even at times, Sominsu tried his best to deal with the opposing Widowmaker, but we saw how that blade worked out. He gets into the back line, he gets the Widowmaker, but what else can he get off that blade? You need to be able to convert more than just one kill with that Dragon Blade.
I would also say, to a degree, for a fight like that too, is that you also have faith in your team that it might develop in a way that's a little bit better than that. We're just like, okay, I'll get the Widow. Hopefully I get the Widow earlier, then I move back in and you guys are still fighting. The problem is that you go on the Widow and the rest of your team loses the fight. It's like, well.
You know what, though? We do want to give a shout out here at Blizzard to Sominsu for showing up and showing out today, because he really did have some impressive Genji plays. So to step into the shoes of KSF, like, that's a tall order to begin with, but to do it week 5 of playoffs when, you know, everything is on the line, he really did. He kept his cool.
Well, he wasn't quite the hero, but he also wasn't the GOAT in the end, and not in the greatest of all time sense. So you can't go in and be like, yeah, this is why Simplicity lost. Like, no, and not quite. I mean, would they have been better with KSF? Probably. KSF was with them the entire season long. Might have been the difference in bones. But Simplicity, I still think, has a lot to look forward to as they look into their prospects for Contender Season 2 later in the year.
Yeah, I mean, we already saw that there seemed to be coordination issues, and with Sominsu coming in, they're adding another Korean speaker onto the roster. It makes it that much more difficult, especially when you have to fill a DPS role who has to dive into the back line. So as they work that out, their offense is just going to get that much stronger. So I look forward to seeing what they can bring for us when we go on to Contenders Trials. All
righty, well, let's go ahead and take a look at our Old Spice player of the match. And it's going to be going to Sharp on Tracer.
Yeah, he's won a lot of these by this point.
You know, it's like
not even
much,
impressed anymore,
yeah.
Sharp.
It's sort of like,
Same old, same old.
oh, Sharp, you've got a player of the match. Shocking. And I think he got it almost every OpTic win, and then the one time they lost, Rita got it. And by the way, big shout out to Smurf. Smurf's juggles on supports, not just here, but over the course of the series, over the last few series we've seen played. Smurf is using Primal Rage at a level that very few Winstons do. So shout out to Smurf.
Yeah, he had a great game, actually, Smurf did. While on the opposite end, DPS was really struggling in the beginning. The coordination between DPS and Zombs, not quite there. It got cleaned up, but it was ultimately Smurf who just had a bigger presence on that Winston. You saw he was able to continually get onto Retzi and take him out, or at least get onto Wonjae Lee and force out a Transcendence in a suboptimal time.
Yeah, that was something that I was going to bring up, too, was kind of the disconnect. Exactly what you said. It seemed to get better between them, but then Wonjae Lee was getting left out to the cold, and not really. We saw Mercy kind of constantly disappearing and backing up some blades with So Mansu that didn't necessarily pay off, and Wonjae Lee was kind of left holding the bag with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what happens when you run that dive, and then you also just try and put all your resources, all your chickens into one basket, right? All your eggs into one basket. And that basket was So Mansu, and it didn't work. It did not work out for them. That left Wonjae Lee out in the cold, and that's why you were seeing him continually getting focused down. Because if the Mercy's not there, a Winston, he's going to be able to kill the Zenyatta every single time. Now, if the Mercy's pocketing, and like they're pocketing each other, that Winston, he's going to do nothing. He's going to fizzle. He might actually even die to the Zenyatta.
Well, also you mentioned this idea of Mercy not being there. Ginger Pop was getting focused down super hard the last few fights. And I think the last fight in particular was probably the best, where you see Sharp coming out the Pulse Bomb. It's like, oh, the Pulse Bomb is missed. Why did the Pulse Bomb miss? Because Smurf is knocking Ginger Pop into next Wednesday is what's going on there. So it's like, oh, okay. Why not? Dead on two fronts.
All right, well, we are going to head to break, but when we come back, we are jumping right back into the action. We have Envision versus Fusion University.